What's up, desktopers? Xavier Wills here for Desktop Bodybuilding, and we are back with another video. And today is my second part of my two-part interview with four-time Mr. Olympia Jay Cutler, and we discuss a range of topics in this one. But if you haven't listened to part one, make sure you go back and listen to it. The link is in my description. Also, there's a little card up at the moment, a little thing at the top of the screen you can click on and go back and listen to part one before you get onto this one, which is part two of my two-part interview. I discuss a range of topics with Jay in this interview, a lot of different stuff maybe you haven't heard before. So does Jay Cutler want kids? He addresses that and what he's been through with that. Also, does he want Phil Heath to come back to attempt to win a record-tying 8th Mr. Olympia? His rivalry with Ronnie Coleman, discussed whether he thinks it's the biggest rivalry of all time, and honestly so much more, including advice to you guys and myself with what I'm doing with YouTube as well. So all that and more come up in this video, guys. And if you like and appreciate this content, please give me a thumbs up and smash that like button. It goes a long way to helping me out. Also subscribe and hit the notification bell button, because we have a heap of content coming up, including interviews with Sergio Oliva Jr., Patrick Moore, Dan Solomon, Brandon Curry. We have a whole heap coming at you guys, so make sure you do subscribe. Anyway, guys, on with the video, and I hope you enjoy it. Now, I mentioned obviously you were my main motivation in terms of a bodybuilder growing up. You know, I think the fact that you were that underdog, you know, always, you know, biting at Ronnie's heels, I think that was sort of appealed to me, I guess, because I was never someone, you know, when I first competed, everyone's going like, why are you competing? It's almost like a joke, you know what I mean? So I think that underdog mentality, that's why I was actually drawn to you initially. And then obviously your work ethic and everything, and the fact that you actually then came up and won it, I was just like, yeah, sold. But who was your main inspiration? Because you were my main inspiration. Do you have a main, I suppose, inspiration growing up in terms of bodybuilding or business or any of that sort of stuff?
You know, I looked at Stallone and Van Damme, those actors, those were like my two idols. Arnold, of course, I saw Terminator 2 at the movie theaters, and I'm like, damn, he looked impressive in the movie. You know, when I was coming up, Ronnie was he was a guy I looked at. Dorian Yates, I mentioned. You know, I looked at Chris Dickerson when I was 12. I saw that was Bob Paris. I read his book at 16. He was a huge inspiration. And you know, Chris Aceto was a mentor to me. You know, I admired Flex Wheeler. He was super nice to me the first time I met him. He was very receptive of, like, you know, me. I was 19. So I was, you know, impressed by him. But there was a lot of guys that I looked at, and Sean Ray was a big inspiration to me. I loved his work ethic, of his like hustle with outside of, you know, guest appearances and doing the DVDs and all that stuff. But Ronnie was my main motivation. You know, I competed against the guy. I still think he's the greatest ever. Lee Haney was a guy that I looked at too. He looked like he was a mentor. Rich Gaspari I liked a lot. And I definitely, when I was landing second, I started to realize, oh my goodness, I'm falling into like the Rich Gaspari, Sean Ray, Nasser El-Sambadi, Flex Wheeler, Kevin Levrone issue, where, you know, you're against the same guy and you just can't break through. And I said, I'm not giving up on this. And when I won the title in 2006, you know, I kind of like said, hey, this is for all those guys that couldn't do it. And I came back time and time and time again. And it's a little disappointing with me, like Phil Heath and Kai Green never amounted to much further than what it did. It's disappointing a little bit, because I was a fan at that point, you know, and obviously I was behind Phil Heath. You know, I competed against Kai Green. He was a threat to me towards the end of my career. And Phil Heath, you know, was obviously came up, you know, from the very bottom when I met him when he was a kid. And then he came up and ended up winning and beating me. But I loved the rivalry. I loved, you know, when Ronnie Coleman, I exited from the stage in 2007, I didn't seem as motivated. You know, I lost to Dexter in 08. I came back in 9, like my best ever. And then I knew I was stepping away in 11 when I tore my bicep and I lost, and then Phil Heath took over. But I knew I could only fight off Phil Heath for so long, especially in 10 when he pushed me. He was second. He was coming into his own. You come to that age in your early 30s where it's like, damn, like the physique just gets sharper by the minute, you know, and Phil Heath was just coming on like a train, and he had the balance, like he had the symmetry, he had the proportions, and he had the, you know, the aesthetics that a lot of us didn't have, and we saw it. And then when he won, I mean, I still think 2011 was his best Mr. Olympia physique ever.
I agree.
Although he did get bigger, we all got forced to get bigger. So nothing like to knock on him, because I even got bigger than I should have, and the waist got bigger. And that's eventually what did him in, right, to losing to Roden, was just the overwhelming, I think he just pushed his body a little further than he probably needed to. But we all do that because we want to be better every year, and the critics want to see us better. But Phil was another guy, like, even though he came after me, like, I used to say, like, when this kid hits it, he's going to be like unbeatable, and I think he could have won 10, it's just another one. I'm kind of like, damn, I just wish he would come back and just do it. Oh, he's 40 now, and it's not too late for him, but he could already won a couple extra by this, you know what I mean? He could have been going for whatever it is now, don't get so upset about the loss. We all lost, we lost, certain people lost in their career. And then usually sometimes it defeats people or they come back stronger. For me, I came back stronger, but I still think Phil Heath, if he decided to compete, would come in and he would rule the whole circuit.
Yeah, well, you've even said recently in interviews that 2002, you skipping that Olympia is probably one of your biggest regrets in bodybuilding. So,
yeah, I hate to say regret because I made the decision, and I hate this. It sounds negative, right? And I mentioned before we even went on air, I said I'm not about negativity because, like, I'm so thankful for everything, and I put up that post you saw on Instagram, like, but. 2002 was like, I moved to Vegas. I was building a crazy house at the time in my pool, and people were in my backyard. They were showing up at 7 in the morning. When you get ready for a fitness, like an event like that, especially that caliber, it's like, man, you just need that focus, right? You need to focus on what you're doing. And I just can't have people ringing my doorbell, because I would have got angry as hell. Like if I was eating my chicken breast or eggs or whatever in the morning, and they were calling me saying, hey, we got this problem or this and that. So I just knew that it was just best. And I started buying a ton of real estate then. So I was investing my money that I had been making. And it worked out financially better for me, but the window was there of Coleman coming in like smaller, right? And it could have changed the whole landscape of what went on later. Because like I said, if people handled defeats different, if Ronnie got defeated, then would he have come back in 03 like he did? Or it would have been like the 07 thing where, he lost in 06 and came back in 7 and fell to 4th or whatever. It didn't look like the normal Ronnie, right? So we all come back to like, okay, what would have, could have been, or should have been, or what possibly could have happened. But I can't live my life like that, man. It was way too many years ago and too many successes ago.
Yeah, it was 18 years ago now, which is crazy to even think about, because that was just after I sort of just before I got into bodybuilding. So it's amazing. And you never know, like if he knew he was competing against you in 2002, maybe he would have upped his game a bit as well. You just don't know, I guess. Do you think Jay Cutler versus Ronnie Coleman is the #1 bodybuilding rivalry of all time? And if not, where do you think it ranks?
I think it's the greatest. And I'm not just, people can knock on, okay, well, it's easy for Jay to say. And, I think people are generally receptive to what I say, right? Because I always give reason behind it. I hate to give you an answer and say, yeah, it was the greatest. Because, you built up, like, you had the greatest bodybuilder, arguably. Okay, I'm not going to say, people say Arnold was better or whatever, but physique-wise, he was the best ever, right? No one will ever top Ronnie Coleman as far as muscle definition, all that. And no Mr. Olympia had ever lost, right? So when you get second consistently, like 01 I was second, 02 I skipped, 3, 4, 5 I won in 6, and then one after that he quit. He came back in 07, but it really wasn't a rivalry because he wasn't landing second to me. No one had ever lost on stage, and no one had ever had that like kind of two mass monsters fighting back and forth, and nothing came between us in that amount of time. And when you have the posters being done for the Mr. Olympia that feature, myself and Ronnie as like the headliners, people are coming to see that show, and they were the Jay fans and they were the Ronnie fans. And then there were the people like, I just want to see a great show. So I think it was the greatest. I think it was, the sport was still building. Remember, when I started competing at 99 at the Olympia, we really didn't have an expo with the Mr. Olympia. It was at Mandalay Bay. You probably don't remember this, but
No.
it wasn't until like '03 or '02, like they started building the expo around it, and then it started on pay-per-view television. So we had Hunter, Triple H headline. He was like announcing the show. If you remember the challenge rounds in like '04 and '05. So the thing was televised. I mean, it was on. You could have paid to watch it. It wasn't just like, oh, join a webcast. So I was in those years where it was very, very. The platform was growing, and AMI bought the Olympia in like 2000, whatever it was, 2003. So it became like more of a national event. There was a lot of changes, but I think that made a good story, and I think the Ronnie Coleman battles were like set the standard for like the top two guys. Like I said, we could have seen Phil Heath, Kai Green, and you could have questioned if that was larger, but it didn't really last as long.
Yeah, for sure. And like when you say it's the biggest rivalry of all time, you go, oh, is it? And then you actually look back at the days of Arnold, but he never had that one rival that was just way above everyone else. He had Sergio. Some people say Lou Ferrigno, when Lou didn't even, in that Pumping Iron film, he didn't even finish second in the contest. So you can't really make that argument. And when you think through those eras, there's no two guys that were just going at each other like a Jay Cutler and Ronnie Coleman. It just didn't happen.
Yeah, and listen, the prize was a lot bigger, right? I mean, we were making a living at it. Like, remember, I was sponsored by Muscle Tech. He was sponsored by BSN. We had the two biggest contracts. The money was growing. He was giving out Escalades at the time at the Olympia. That was the biggest prize there, alongside the cash. And it was just there was a lot of aura to the whole thing. And that's kind of why I think that it was the way it was, as far as being the greatest rivalry ever. And I don't know if it will be duplicated, because you need to have the consistency of two guys battling out. And right now, if I asked you as a reporter or a media person, who's going to be the top two at the Olympia this year? You can't even say, right? There's no sure. If you asked that many years ago, and when I met you, who was going to be top two at the Olympia? Oh, Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman, right? So it is the greatest. I mean, I don't think there's any argument there, and I think everyone would agree with that. That's in that era.
Yeah, and today it's a lot of it is if this guy competes, if this guy competes, if this guy's able to compete, because you got Hardy Chupin, will he be allowed in the country? Phil Heath, will he come back? Sean Roden, will he be allowed to compete? Will his case be sorted out? And it's never been like that, where three of potentially the top 5 or top 4 bodybuilders in the world maybe won't compete in the show, which is really unfortunate for whatever reason. And also Kai Green as well. So you got 4 amazing competitors that might not be on that stage, but could be in the top 5 potentially. So,
and we're in a situation. How do the guys qualify for the Olympia right now?
Yeah.
They're going to have to change the restriction of the Mr. Olympia. This is going to be they talked about last year being an asterisk year because so-and-so didn't show up. But this is going to be an asterisk year because they're going to have to change the qualification process in order to get enough bodies there, because they're not going to have enough time to qualify these guys, because not everyone's training at this point. It's already April now.
Yeah, and I just saw this morning, I saw Muscular Development put up a live video saying Toronto Pro cancelled. We've seen the New York Pro's been pushed back to
August 8th.
Yeah, so that's been pushed back as well. So hopefully that's all for the better, and we're able to stack a few shows in, hopefully before the Olympia runs on the same date. What's your thoughts on the 2020 Olympia? Do you think it will run on the same date? Do you think it will run as normal? Will there be an expo? Obviously, it's probably stuff, and we're just speculating. We don't really know. But what's your thoughts on that?
The Olympia will be held on that date because I feel that we will come off restriction by then.
Yep.
Now, how successful it would be, I can't imagine financially this will be any great for any company. I mean, it's going to hurt all of us. I can sit here and tell you how great I'm doing. I'm not breaking records. I'm brutally honest about things. Other businesses are thriving for me, but the supplement game is definitely going to be affected. We have no gym workouts happening. The stores are closed. I tried to go buy vitamin C today at a couple of supplement shops locally, and everything's closed. I thought something would be open limited hours. So I ordered stuff online, but I think it will go off on the same date. I think it's full force because The problem is they're going to have shows back to back to back after that. If you remember, the Rock show's a month later.
Yeah.
We have Prague that's scheduled, that I'm scheduled to go to after the Mr. Olympia. So there's a lot of like back to back dates, but I feel like everything's going to be pushed into as we get into, those September, October, November months. I mean, I think this year we run a lot of shows into just December because people are still going to want to compete, but you're going to have to find your place as far as the schedule on what regions are going to have the shows and what qualifiers are going to be there. I mean, people are going to lose qualifications, that's for sure. There's going to be less pros given cards this year. It's going to be a little more restrictive. And like I said, the Olympia has to have something change. We had no Arnold Classic, Expo, although the show went on, but we lost Australia. So that was another qualification show. And then you mentioned New York Pro being changed till August. So, I mean, it's all thrown up in the air right now.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned Rock's new show, which is Athleticon, that whole expo and everything that's going on. I think it's called the Icon World Championships or World Games or something. Then you've got Shaquille O'Neal promoting a show and expo, I think, with Rock Shabazz. You've obviously got the Olympia. And you've got more of these celebrities coming actually into the sport. And it seems like it's growing, and maybe The Rock will bring more mainstream sponsors and whatnot on board. Do you think this is like almost back like how you said back in the early 2000s where things started to go on pay-per-view and they started to bring the expos to the Olympia? Do you think this is going to be another transformative time in bodybuilding and we'll see some sort of growth?
I think we'll see some growth, and I think the other divisions are favorable towards that, meaning the bikini and men's physique and classic. It's not the bodybuilding culture that's necessarily going to be okay. It's still going to be the main show. Don't get me wrong. Like, before people jump on me, bodybuilding is still king. But there's so many other optional categories that allow more faces on the business. I get tossed between a business or a sport, but there's just so many new eyes that probably weren't there before, and people that want to compete, because there's so many different levels to it now, right? If it was just hardcore men's bodybuilding, yes, it's a cool show to watch, but you get a lot of eyes that show up at these events because they think, oh, I can look better than this person or whatnot. And social media now has expanded the eyes on fitness. It's still an ongoing business. So I think it's a positive spin to it. I think when you have a figurehead such as Dwayne Johnson and you have Shaquille O'Neal involved, and Shaquille O'Neal being ambassador for the Olympia this year, taking where I was last year, you have those eyes on it. It's definitely going to give it some more appeal to the public. And I know Athleticon is focused not solely on the IFBB section. It's focused on like other events too. Like I heard there's fighting and I don't know, UFC maybe, and there's some acting stuff, award shows or whatever else. So it's not just, I haven't got so much information. I haven't seen, but I haven't researched it to no fault, but of my own. I just haven't researched much about it. My focus has been so much on my business and my, opportunities that I haven't really focused on the end of the year stuff. I haven't got an invitation to come, or it's not on my schedule to attend that show. So for me, it's not even on my calendar to go to Atlanta. I'm only focused till the Olympia and then the European stuff after right now.
Yep. And you mentioned you're focused on your businesses right now, and part of that's obviously your new supplement company. Let us know how that's going and obviously what products and all that sort of stuff that you're bringing out.
I'm a direct-to-consumer brand, so I sell mostly online through my Shopify store, which is jaycutler.com. And then, I have my Amazon. I do have a few distribution channels. I am working, I do sell in the UK, and I am working on Australia now, registering for Canada. I just launched the proteins. Lastly, I just launched a chocolate a few weeks ago. I'm doing new flavors of the Prevail pre-workout. I have a stem-free pre-workout, which is amazing, called Amplify. You need the test boosters, the fat burners, essential aminos, branch chain aminos. I'm launching a repair product, which is a post-workout carbohydrate, kind of like a waxy maize mixed with some aminos in there, which is really going to be a great product because I'm a huge believer in post-training or intra-training. So there's a lot of cool things on the back burner, but a lot of notoriety. The brand is getting great recognition, and everything is available through either my Instagram, Cutler Nutrition, jaycutler.com. is where you can find the products.
Yep, and let us know about your YouTube as well, and what I suppose your goal is on there, because I've spoke to Dave Belay as well, who sort of runs that, edits it, puts all the stuff up. Super nice guy as well. Really appreciate all the stuff that he's doing as well with you. And for me, I think it's really opened up, and I've got to know you as, I suppose, a person better, and how you tick and what you do day to day a bit more, which has been really cool for me. And how do you think, I suppose, that's helped your supplement company as well?
I think the YouTube is the future, right? It's a free outlet. I do a lot of things for free these days. I have a Jmail, which is like my free newsletter I send out on a 5-day-a-week basis, and that's just tips or whatever. And now the YouTube has given me the opportunity to showcase my personality, but more importantly, showcase a platform for the underprivileged guys that wouldn't necessarily have that notoriety, to be seen by eyes that, all over the world that, are, coming to the Jay Cutler hub, right? My name carries a lot of weight. People are always researching my name. So when they come across the channel, we featured, Juan Morel gave me a video a couple weeks ago, Guy Sisternino. We feature, of course, my own stuff. We featured Sergio as he was leading up to the Arnold Classic. Dave went down there, and I have to give a lot of credit to Dave Borlay, because he worked with me with Flex Magazine and Muscular Development and, a couple of the other media channels. And when everything kind of went sideways and all the media channels started to die out a little bit, especially the magazines, I kind of revisited the Jay Cutler TV, which I started in 2008. It was called Swole Monkey Productions, and we were just filming the workouts. And I would just do very, very rough, edits, and I would just showcase some of it was black and white film of me just training, showing the exercises. But that's what people wanted to see. And it was a spinoff of the DVDs that just stopped selling because the internet became free on YouTube, right? And YouTube was launched. So I said, you know what, I'm going to give the content for free. But that gave Dave a good opportunity to have a job with me and be able to come and be kind of like, he was always my hype guy anyway. Like, he was supported me since 2001. I met Dave, and he's a fan of bodybuilding. Like, he loves it, and he has great rapport with everyone. He's at Gold's Venice every day, so he gets to see like the Dexter Jacksons and the Sean Rodens and the Stanimals, and anyone that comes to town and trains there. We're able to shoot even the females, like Laura Lee and all these women that come in, and it's just he just loves it. And I think when you have two passionate people, and we're kind of showcasing a channel, it's an open channel for anyone to come on. Anyone that feels like, hey, I have something to say or something to give, I give that platform for. And, it gives me a showcase to be able to talk about when I do, my walks in the morning called jaywalking, or, questions that people write in. I do that. I show cooking on there, but I can also showcase my funny commercials with the dogs, with the products. And,
I love those.
I'm having fun. I've been having fun doing that, shooting those with Angie. It's kind of a little spin, and the dogs are like my whole life is my little Yorkies. I spend a lot of time with those dogs. They travel with us, their service. So they come at all the events, like any expo I'm at in the United States, those dogs are more than likely there. They sit in a little bag or they chill out, and they're very famous now in this arena. So I'm a dog lover. I always been. If you watch my videos, I had the big Airedales before, and Scrappy, I had the little white dog. And I don't have children, so those are like, that's my, I just love having my family, and I like to travel with that. So that channel's really given me opportunity to be who I really am, and give the platform to the other people.
For sure. You mentioned obviously you don't have children. Do you ever have any plans of wanting to have children, or not really?
It's one of those things, man. Like, if it happened, like, I would be receptive for it. I was married for a long time, and I got divorced at 38. Carrie was a huge backbone of my career, and I really couldn't have achieved all this without, that relationship, because she was with me since I was 16. And, when we split up, it was confusing for people because it seemed like the perfect relationship. But her and I we just kind of grew apart. We had different goals, and she was a nurse. She's still a nurse practitioner, and she's super supportive of what I do, and as I am with her. We have a lot of respect for each other, especially as we transition through life together. And I remember when we got divorced, it's like, we're going to remain like best friends. And, people say that kind of stuff, and then it's like, yeah, whatever, it doesn't happen. But like, we stay in touch all the time, and she's using all the products now, and I always laugh and I say, your name's on the products, and she's really into training right now. So she went to the CrossFit, and like she's like doing like mudding runs and all these other things, and it's pretty cool to see that, and especially because we're the same age. So we're all trying to beat father time at the same time. But I never really, she actually miscarried in 2005. And then I won the Mr. Olympia and got really busy, and that life kind of took over. And it's kind of like, be careful what you wish for kind of thing. And I started traveling more and more and more. So it was really hard for me because I knew if I had a child, I would have to stay home, because that's how I am. Like I just mentioned, like my dogs are with me all the time. And, she was working, she was in a professional career. So it just never happened. And at this point, like, as I'm getting older, I'm still buried in the business, man. It hasn't slowed down for me. And some people always ask, well, can Jay have a child? Of course I can, but I chose right now, to hold off on that, and not just never say never, but right now it's just not in my wheelhouse of like, this is what I want in life. And that may sound selfish, but like, listen, not everyone has the same aspirations, right? And obviously you have children, right? I mean, it takes time, and we just had this call. You're like, I got to keep the kids a little quiet so I can do this interview, right?
Yeah.
It's sometimes like that with the dogs. I'm like, shut the dogs up. Capone just ran over and his little bell was ringing, and usually I put him on my lap. But you need certain time to do things. But listen, not to say it wouldn't be a blessing. I grew up as an uncle. I was an uncle when I was 9 years old. My brothers and sisters all have young kids, and now of course they're all grown. But it's one of those things, I guess. It's like, for some people it's necessary, other people it's like, yeah, if it happens, it happens.
Yeah, for sure. And like, you even see Dave Palumbo, I thought he's never going to have kids, and he got to probably your age or maybe a bit older actually, and then he had his first child, and now I think he's got a third on the way, or just had a third, but yeah, which is crazy. And
he
for
just
me,
had a third, but he can't go anywhere now.
I know he's
always
stuck.
Like, I can't.
That's funny.
He's like
yeah.
Mr. Mom.
Yeah, and I suppose it's different in every relationship, because you got Chris Aceto, he still travels quite a bit, I suppose, considering, and
he's got 4.
I know, and they're different ages too, because he's got a really young kid too. I mean, he's got 2 older, real tall kids.
Yeah, it's crazy with Chris Aceto, man, because I met Chris when he was 24, and he was like a bodybuilder. Like he used to come in, we used to train together, and we were as strong as each other. And then I watched him transition to, like, now you'd never even know he lifted weights, and I don't think he even goes to the gym. But his older kids are like athletes, man. They're like really tall, and like, I see his kids, they're really good, handsome guys, and Chris is just, him and I go so far back, and I never imagined him being like a dad, believe it or not. And like, he travels with the kids, and the kids, like, they were homeschooled and everything. But it's amazing to see that, and he's just so happy, and he's in all his different other business ventures now, but still loves the bodybuilding. Like, yeah. That's the cool thing about Chris. Like, he's getting on his live feeds lately. I don't know if you're following him on Instagram, but he's on live every day right now. And we talked on the phone yesterday. So it's cool to always catch up and see that, the transition. He's not a guy that's usually tech savvy. So for him to be on social media, like, he didn't even know when we went on live one day. I was like the first one he went live with. And he's like, I don't know how to invite somebody on here. So I sent him the request. Pretty funny. Sometimes
it's funny, like sometimes the older guys that get on social media but don't really know what they're doing, they have no fear of it. They just do it, and they don't worry about how they're going to be perceived. So they actually put out more stuff and better content than some of these younger guys. Like even myself, I'll put up something, I'm like, I should put it up, and then you sort of procrastinate on it and you don't even do it. But I find, like, Chris Aceto and a bunch of, like, even Dennis James has a huge following on social media, and he just posts, he doesn't really concentrate too much on exactly what it is. So
this is Daisy right here. So this is the female. She usually doesn't come over, which is kind of surprising. She's a little more timid.
Very cute.
Daisy's 10.
Oh, wow.
So she's squirmish right now. She doesn't want to be up there.
How long do little dogs like that typically live? They live longer, hey?
They live, I would 13, 15, 17. I had Scrappy till I was, he was 18.
Wow.
Pretty much my whole career. He was born in 94 and he passed away in 2012. So I had him pretty much my whole career,
Yeah.
And the Airedales lived to 10. The ones in the DVDs, the big Airedales, those both died at 10. But my dogs, man, I can't explain how much my dogs are everything to me.
For sure.
Yeah.
And just on the whole kid thing, going back to that, I just want to just let you know my experience. I basically, 2 years ago, I was just coming out of another relationship, not thinking I was anywhere near having kids. And I've got my second on the way now. My partner already has 2 kids. And I think seeing the way she was with her 2 older kids, they're 10, well, one of them just had their 10th birthday yesterday. The other one's 12. And seeing the way she is with them, I'm like, it's not that crazy hard, I guess. Like, it is hard, I guess, in a lot of emotional ways and whatnot. But I'm like, that's manageable. So then we actually thought we accidentally got pregnant and she wasn't. And I had 2 weeks of sort of adapting to the idea that, my partner was pregnant. And then when she wasn't, I was like, huh. And she's like, what?
Huh?
Yeah, she's like, are you disappointed? And I'm like, sort of, yeah. And then she's like, well, do you want to try it then? I was like, oh, like, hold on. And then a week later, I was like, yeah, let's do this. Because, when I was younger, I had hormonal issues and I was like, will I be able to have kids? Will I not? And she had PCOS. And so I'm like, we're sort of a little bit less likely to have kids. And then when we tried, it happened straight away. And it's like, I'm sure you've heard from many other people, it's like no other feeling having your own child, I guess. But at the same time, like you said, there's a lot that comes with it. I mean, my boy this morning at 5 a.m. was whacking me in the face laying in our bed. And I was like, go away, go to mum. So it is like, obviously you said, when your partner miscarried in 2005, that would have made 2006 a lot harder to prep for, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I was very upset. I cried when we lost, and
I bet.
And she was upset, and I'm like, I was like, man, I was really excited when she told me. It came like out of the blue, like shocking, right?
Yeah.
Because at that point, I was like just had started training for, I think, the '05 Olympia, and you wouldn't think like, oh, I can't get anyone pregnant right now, from what I was taking or whatever, and just goes to show like that's not always the truth,
Yeah, same happened with Aaron Singerman too. He's like, birth control.
yeah,
didn't work.
So it is what it is, and it's awesome, man. It's great that you're happy, and these times, like anyone that's staying home and has a family, like this is a great time to take advantage of spending time, because we all get so fast forward in life, and I think now you start to appreciate. I see a lot of people posting on media like, I'm not going to disrespect this anymore. I'm not going to take this for granted, right? Because you realize now, like when you're stuck is doing the same thing on a daily basis, and some people can't even go to work even though they work from home, or they're out of a job, and then you can't do any activities to even offset your mind a little bit, like even eating a dinner out or going to a movie, like the simple things, right? It's just, it's challenging. So I'm just trying to stay as positive as possible. And listen, we're all going through the same thing. So everyone keep their head up and, follow those fitness people if that's what your passion is, that spread that positivity, right? I hope people watch this interview and say, hey, I picked up something that maybe they didn't see. Because, I've done a ton of interviews, but I never really get in depth of my gut feeling. And that may change. If you interview me in 2 years, my outlook may be different. You never know. So it's always good to do these interviews. And I told you I stepped away from it for a while. I wasn't receptive to taking on a lot of interviews because it gets too monotonous, right? It's like you ask the same question. So what about you and Ronnie Coleman? And what was your feeling when you lost? And da-da-da-da-da. So it's good to kind of touch things that not necessarily everyone's asked before.
Yeah,
so
I've listened to a lot of your previous interviews and I've heard a lot of the questions and I've heard a lot of the same questions repeated. So I tried to ask a few different things and get into your mindset more so rather than just asking about certain Olympias, what you think your best was and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, hopefully people have got something a bit different out of this interview. Now, what advice, I suppose, would you give people that can work from home or have, perhaps can't work from home right now? Like for me, like would you recommend going all in on YouTube because people are home watching YouTube? Like, is there any advice like that?
I was just going to say, everyone that's aspiring should have a YouTube channel. And listen, if you get 3 views, the nice thing is about YouTube is you have 3 views now, but 10 years later, like I'm going to give an example. I knew Bradley Martin before he was like known as Bradley Martin, and he was hanging around like 2000, like around 12. He came and he was helping me with my T-shirt booth at the LA Fit Expo, and no one knew who he was. And he became like a YouTube sensation, and he competed in men's physique or whatever, and that wasn't his goal. And then he started to, voice his thought processes and whatever, and people attached to that. And look at how successful he is now, just being vocal. And, he does some outrageous things. I mean, he squatted on the hoverboard, which really, is on ESPN here. I don't know if you realize that. Like,
wow.
That was his breakthrough. He squatted 315 or 405 or whatever on the hoverboard. And then he did his gym opening. I remember him telling me at my booth in 2012, when he was not recognized by anyone, he says, I'm a personal trainer, but I want to own a gym. And I said, when you open your gym, I will come to do your grand opening. And he opened his gym 2 years ago. And I literally flew to California for the day. He told me he was opening his gym. And I said, I told you I'll be there. So he opened Zoo Culture. And out of respect to, I appreciated the passion back then and what he's done. I went to his grand opening. CT was there. Dana Lynn Bailey showed up. We all went there. And, we didn't get paid to show up. But I did it as a respect thing for him because he's helped a lot of people. And he didn't need a platform of like the Olympia or Arnold Classic Championship to really make him the figurehead that he is. And like I said, some of the stuff he does is outrageous. He's in with a lot of the YouTubers now. But I try to tell people, like, showcase yourself, come out of your shell a little bit, get on your social media, create your social media accounts, try to be active, get on there and comment on don't just like people's pictures. If you follow someone, and I always tell this to Angie, because she's like, you like a lot of pictures. Like, I'll go down and every picture I like, if I get on media and I breeze through everyone's Instagram, and I'll be honest, I'm going to be truthful. Sometimes I don't even realize what I'm liking, but it's someone I follow. So I'm going to like it. And a lot of times I'll comment because it means so much to people, and people see that and people interact on it, right? Say, oh my gosh, Jay Cutler wrote a comment on your thing. I try to do that with people because it's like a respect factor. If I'm going to take time to follow someone, because I don't really follow people just to follow them. I have a reason why I follow them, because either I'm friendly with them or I've met them or they give me inspiration, or like I kind of just want to learn from them. So that's why I follow certain people. But I try to go on and I comment and I like. So take the time and show appreciation to those people, especially that give you motivation, right? I'm going to ask you a question. You sit there and you watch like the Fuad interview and you watch. So do you research other people's interviews to learn how to be better with yours?
Yeah, with the Fuad interview, I actually spoke to Michael Galley yesterday, and I said, I watched the Fuad interview with Jay, and I watched a few other ones as well, and I said, I learned what I want to ask and what I don't want to ask, because I felt like I hear questions that I'm like, okay, for me, I don't really care as much about that sort of question. It doesn't really, but I've heard it before, you know what I mean? And you also got to account for people that have not heard interviews with you before or not heard as many interviews, but you're quite obviously well known. So I want to ask questions that I suppose dig a bit deeper into who you are.
Your stuff. It's funny. I go through YouTube and I see desktop bodybuilding, whatever, and I've always like seen, the recognizable face. And I'm sorry, I don't remember meeting you in 2007, like at that
I don't
show.
expect you to.
But it's just cool. Do you remember the first high-profile person you ever interviewed?
The first high-profile person would have been Mil Sachev.
That was your first one. You said you were nervous as hell. You were shaking. And
yeah.
What do you think was the most? Because he's pretty responsive when you ask him questions, right?
Yep.
Out of all the questions you asked him, what do you think was the best question that you asked of him?
Honestly, I can't even remember. I interviewed him when I was probably only 17, so it was 13 years ago now. And the thing that really made me more nervous is Milos didn't understand my accent perfectly. So he would say, "Oh, sorry, Xavier, I don't understand what you're saying." And I was like, "Oh, man!" I'd repeat it, and then I'd have to cut those bits out where he's trying to understand me. But yeah, it was very nerve-wracking. I didn't have any issues with asking any particular questions. It was just the whole experience of it. And I suppose the thought of it that was playing over in my mind. And I interviewed a few other people afterwards, and I was still nervous, but not shaking as much. And then it became a thing where now it's I'm sitting here talking to you, and it feels like I'm talking to like a friend almost. It's not scary. It's not intimidating.
That's comfortable for me, because I always want people to feel like, when I have a converse with people, like I try to and you'll notice a lot of pictures. If you ever see, I put my hand on people's shoulder, because I want them to understand, like, hey, I'm connecting with what we're saying. I'm listening to what you're saying, because I never wanted to be that guy that like you were having a conversation and I was like this, right? I was looking away or I had something else in my mind. Although when I'm at these events, like someone's yelling, "Hey Jay," and I'm like, "Hey, you know, hey, whatever." I try to give that person, because they waited sometimes hours to see me. But I think it's really like, you've been doing it a long time, so just keep doing what you're doing, keep spreading the positivity. I know you deal with everything, you know, from the quarrelsome stuff to the interviews, and you know, I did catch a little bit of your Dexter Jackson thing yesterday, you know, so
That was crazy.
it's good. It's good you're covering everything, because it's what people want to see, right? In this day and age, especially what's going on in the last month, it's like, what are people looking to see, right? People are glued to the TV and the YouTube probably more than ever, so they're looking for quality content. So I hope you continue to find stuff that interests people.
For sure. I've got a lot of videos coming up. I've got an interview with Brandon Curry, got an interview that I just did with Sergio and a bunch of other guys as well. So I've got all that stuff coming out. But what advice, I suppose you probably haven't watched too much of my stuff, but what advice would you give me in terms of what I should cover in bodybuilding right now with no contests on? I've got a lot of ideas and whatnot about interviewing people and whatnot, but what advice would you give me?
I mean, listen, if you could do like mobile interviews, maybe you have, but if, you know, I know you're from sitting in your home, your office or whatever, I would definitely like make yourself mobile, like, you know, come to the States and do some of these interviews, man. Yeah. Be awesome if we could have done the interview in my office. That's like everyone's dream. Your friend came here and he told you what the office looked like, right?
Yeah. He said it was amazing. He rang me and we was talking about it, and he goes, "Oh, Jay was, you know, talking about this and showing us this." He's like, "Oh," like he was like, for him, he's been a big Jay Cutler fan for years too. So for him, it was like dream come true sort of stuff as well. So he was just like, he just said, "Oh, Xavier, it was awesome. It was such a cool experience." So hopefully when this whole thing is over, I'm able to come to the States. And like I said to you in a message a while ago, I don't know if you remember, but I said, I spoke to Dave Belay, and Dave said, you know, if you get your pro card and then come to America, he said, I'll film you in golds and we'll do an interview.
Man, we're gonna film you no matter what. So if you get the chance to come, and if you ever make it to Vegas, you're more than welcome to come check out this is the biggest shrine in professional bodybuilding right here. No one has this setup that I have. I mean, I wish you could see the other side of the screen here, but it's just like all the images and everything, you know. But these are the most important bad boys right here. You know, this is a Sandow trophy. So there's only 15 guys that have this trophy, right?
That's incredible. Are they all slightly different?
What's that?
Are they all slightly different?
They are all different. The new one's a lot bigger. So Brandon's is a lot bigger, and Phil, I think, got a couple that were bigger. But you know, sometimes this whole barbell, like it's different. It leans different. The figure's a different color. You know, it's leaning back a little more on some of them, which is kind of cool. But I also have, my friend gave me some books on the history of, I don't know if you can see this, but this is like Eugene Sandow books. So that's like, I have that with it. And this is actually pretty cool. This is the Night of Champions ring. This was my first professional win. It says NOC on it. Can you see that?
That's cool. They should do that with another contest.
This is now New York Pro. So you'll see Sergio, he wears his New York Pro ring, right? That's my ring. This is the original case that it came in on stage. They gave this to me.
That's so cool.
It's never come out of this and never worn on my finger.
Oh, wow. You never worn it?
Never worn it. So, you know, Wheeler has it. I think Chris Cormier has one. A lot of people won the NOC and got that ring. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. That was my first victory, 2000 Night of Champions.
Yeah, professional. That's incredible. That's so cool. Jay, I want to thank you so much for doing this interview. Do you have any final words? Anyone you want to thank? Anything you want to promote or anything like that? Because you've done, obviously, we've spent almost an hour and a half doing this, and it's just been such an honor. When I asked you, I said 5-10 minutes or whatever, but you said at the start of this, you said, I've got some time, so don't stress. I was
listen,
cool.
No, I appreciate all the fans out there around the world. I apologize for everyone that I had to cancel events due to all the craziness going on in the world right now, but I will make it up, and I will be back in Australia. I can't wait. Hopefully, if I come to your area, we can grab a workout, get it on film a little bit. But just to let everyone know, I'm available always. If on my social media, I do go on there and I do answer some questions. I get a million DMs, so I try to answer ones that are have some meaning to it. And I appreciate everyone that follows me on all those platforms. Make sure you check out JTV, and hopefully this interview goes viral, and hopefully we can get you on our channel when time is right. And keep healthy, and all the best to your family, and stay safe during these times. We'll be back to normal before we know it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jay. That's Jay Cutler, 4-time Mr. Olympia and the main ambassador of bodybuilding around the world. Thank you, Jay Cutler.
Appreciate it.
So that's it for another video. That was my interview with 4-time Mr. Olympia, Jay Cutler. I want to thank Jay once again, and make sure you support him and his supplement company that he's got going on right now. Also, give him a shout out, give him a share, give him likes on their videos on Jay Cutler TV as well, and all that good stuff. And if you like what I'm doing as well, please give me a thumbs up, smash that like button. Also, subscribe and hit the notification bell button. That way you'll be notified of every video that goes up for myself, Xavier Wills at Desktop Bodybuilding, including videos coming up with Brandon Curry, Sergio Oliva Jr., Patrick Moore, and a heap of other content, including some other stuff from some top coaches as well. So make sure you do that. And that's it for another video for Xavier Wills, Desktop Bodybuilding, and for Jay Cutler. We are out.